Hello, friends, and welcome to Bible study. We're in the Niv, 1Corinthians, chapter 16. We're going to go all the way from 1 to 24, and this will close out the 1Corinthians. So tomorrow we'll start 2Corinthians. This one is called the collection for God's people. There is another parable in here too. Chapter 16, verse 1. Now about the collection for God's people. Do what I told the Galatian churches to do. On the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with his income, saving it up so that when I come, no collections will have to be made. Then when I arrive, I will give you letters of introduction to these men you approve and send them with your gift to Jerusalem. If it seems advisable for me to also go, they will accompany me. So tithing, he's setting up tithing, which is, something the Jewish people would have been very familiar with, and something in general, because king's tax and all that people are familiar with. The purposes of those things, there's another one in here too, personal requests in between that and the last one. And of course, it's meant to upkeep a main church, which at this point, they're still establishing. It's in Jerusalem. It's not anywhere else. And this is, again, something that a Pharisee would be familiar with because it's exactly what happens in Jerusalem with the temple. Personal requests. Verse 5. After I go through Macedonia, I will come to you, for I will be going through Macedonia. Perhaps I will stay with you a while, or even spend the winter, so that you can help me on my journey wherever I go. I do not want to come see you now and make only a passing visit. I hope to spend time with you, if the Lord permits. But I will stay on in Ephesus until Pentecost. So then at least we know Pentecost goes back to 50, AD. So it was established before that. Because he speaks about Pentecost as if everybody knows what it is. And it's just a date on a calendar that they're already aware of. Because a great door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many who oppose me. So he's like, I'm still fighting a fight here, so I can't come to you yet because I got to settle this here and get Jesus's foothold in this place. So enough people are accepting and rejecting evil, and so I can come visit you after. If Timothy comes, see to it that he has nothing to fear while he is with you, for he is carrying on the work of the Lord just as I am. Yeah, don't let people murder him. Make sure he's got a place to stay. Like what you would do for me, do it for Timothy if he comes your way. No one then should refuse to accept him. Send him on his way in peace so that he may return to me. I am expecting him along with the brothers. Now about our brother Apollos. I strongly urged him to go to you with the brothers. He was quite unwilling to go now, but he will go when he has an opportunity. Be on your guard. Stand firm in faith. Be men of courage. Be strong. Do everything in love. That can be a very big challenge for people because it's hard to sort out what's our will and what we really want because something seems right to us in our eyes versus the actual love. And I think the first and foremost understanding that and it's really challenging for everybody, it's part of the human condition. I'm not pretending like I've got this down. I'm saying I know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not always good at maintaining that because, like everybody else, I'm a human. So, everybody needs grace. right? So do everything in love. The biggest challenge there is the Creator, God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, all they don't take away your free will. And they're not trying to. They want you to go along with their plan and trust in them. That's not the same thing as force. Force has malice. That's not the same thing at all. Love is something that doesn't involve any malice. So if you're sure that your way is correct and it involves, you will make them, or you will win at all costs, or you will, no, I will, any of that kind of energy. And it does not, you cannot accept the idea that this person could be doing whatever they are going to do over there as long as they're not involving you, and you need to leave them alone. And you can't do that. You can't find yourself doing that. You're not interacting with them in love. Because if you can't let them go make their own mistakes, go figure out their own problems, go live their own life, and send them love while they do it, even if you don't agree with what they're doing, then you're not approaching them with love. And that's the hardest challenge for every human. Where is that line? Where is that line of when you're being a concerning person versus when you have to step back and forth? It isn't easy, and it isn't one answer. And that's where it becomes a problem for us. Because we as a species like to categorize things. We like to organize things. We like to have things that work without us thinking about it. And that is in our nature. And we need that to survive. But we can't have that everywhere. And we want it everywhere. Because we don't want to have to think about it. Well, that's an opening. That's an opening for the opposition to get in. So it's a choice, and he will let you make it. Because if he doesn't let you make your own mistakes and let you make your own choices to show him what kind of life you want to live, then he's just forcing you, isn't he? Verse 15. You know that the household of Stephanus were the first converts in Achaia, and they have devoted themselves to the service of the saints. I urge you, brothers, to submit to such as these, to everyone who joins the work and labors in it. I was glad when Stephanus, Fortunus, and Achaia, because I'm not going to necessarily know. See, it sounds like Acaciacus. Because I definitely recognize the word acacia in there, but Acaciacus, C-U-S at the end. Acaciacus arrived because they have supplied what was lacking from you. That's right, we're a network. It's not that you have to know the answer for everything. That's not that. You need to know that when you don't know the answer, you need to know to go look to get an answer before you make a choice. To get the best advice that you can get and then make the best choice you can make with the information you have. But you can't just not look for more information when you know you don't know anything about that subject matter. Okay. For they refreshed my spirit and yours also. Such men deserve recognition. And when people help you, acknowledge the help that they're giving you. Tell them thank you. Say please. Be polite. No one is going to want to help you if you're running around being aggressive, trying to force your will, and you're not even grateful. If you can't say please and thank you and all the rest of those things, then you're really just sitting in your ego. That's called entitlement. You can't do that. You can. I'm not going to try it. Don't do that. Is more like what I was saying. Like, he doesn't want you to do that. That's not in love either. Final greetings. Verse 19. The church in the province of Asia sends you greetings. Aquila and Priscilla greet you warmly in the Lord. And so does the church that meets at their house. And that's a good thing to remember. A lot of early churches do start in people's houses. And that is just really part of the tradition, and it's actually been there for a very long time, because when we're thinking about in the Old Testament, and we're thinking about where this concept of one centralized church, because one temple in Jerusalem and all that kind of stuff, but even during those days, There were designated outpost places where there were other temples. So people didn't have to travel so far. So they came to Jerusalem one time a year. That doesn't mean they weren't in temple. It meant they went to the temple that was close to them. And once a year they made a holy trek to Jerusalem to do a big offering. It doesn't mean they didn't do anything. And that no sacrifices were being done. Nothing was happening. No. In the law, in the outposts, even out there tending, the people who were tending to the flock, there were Levites in the outposts who were sanctuaries for those who have problems. And this is not a foreign concept to Christians, because if you think about missions, and if you were out, like, say, even, like, I'll pick my own ancestry because I can speak on that more intelligently, in Scotland and England, before there was a separation, right? Early days when all there was for Christians was the Catholic Church, and that's all there was no others. If you were running from someone who wanted to kill you, you could run inside of a church and claim sanctuary. Churches are still considered sanctuaries. It's not like that's different. But at that time, absolutely, in some places, it should be, in my opinion, still be that kind of thing. But it can get into a sticky situation in the more modern times. Even every king, queen, they would just sit there and wait for you to come out. You could live there if the monks were willing to let you live there, if it was going to save your life, so you could never leave. In fact, I have a great-grandfather where that happened. There was a war, he lost, and rather than killing him, they gave him the option that he could go live in that abbey with the monks for the rest of his life, and that meant he didn't have to die, and that's exactly what he did. And they actually, because they really just wanted the land, so they could tax it, so he wasn't in the way of their commerce going back and forth. They just were sort of like, no, your sons can live there. They just have to pay us taxes and let us, use a road. And they're like, oh, okay. And that's really just how it came out. So this is not a new idea or a new concept. Just in the early church, it would have been in someone's house because they didn't own a building to be in. Because the Spirit of the Lord is anywhere that we are. Yes, a building absolutely can be made holy. Anything can be made holy. I mean, humans these are inanimate objects. They have no culpability for anything that happens to them. Because how could they? We don't really, it's not like we give them a choice. You're going to be a pencil, and then that's okay. Humans can be forgiven, and we have total culpability for our own behavior. We're either choosing to act out of a good nature or a wounded nature. I mean, mostly people are not evil. There are some, and even those, I think there's more mental health issues than actual evil, but I've met some people that I question that. I mean, fortunately, not very often, and few and far between, like, almost. Like, they're not in my life, and they were not. These are not people who were ever in my life. I just want to make that clear. These are people who I was like, I'm going to stay away from you, and you're not going to be in my life. So this is not anybody I was, born with or, worked with or like any of that. I don't want anybody getting crazy with any of that stuff. Verse 20. All the brothers here send you greetings. Greet one another with a holy kiss. A holy kiss is a kiss on the cheek. It's an innocent kiss. It's not anything with any sort of anything other than, hi there, I love you, kind of thing. Like a divine love. Verse 21, I, Paul, write this greeting with my own hand. If anyone does not love the Lord, a curse be on him. Ooh, that's not so good. Come, O Lord. The grace of Jesus be with you. May love to all of you in Christ Jesus. Amen. Okay. He shouldn't really put curses on people. I know. I mean, because I can lose my temper and I can be pretty. My temper historically has been a terrible problem, and I've been spending most of my life trying to learn to control it, or figuring out what environments I need to not be in, or what my stressors are, so I can have my coping mechanisms. And I'm a very, very different person than I was even a few years ago. I think mostly because of things exactly like this, which is why I continue to do them. Because they help me stay in my better nature and they move me well away from what the danger is and know myself better. Which is what I encourage everybody to have. But I also know very specifically the Creator has very much let me know that I'm not supposed to curse people. You stub your toe, you say a bad word, okay, but at a person, no. Which actually is rules and my parents had always had established in our house from the time that we were quite young. And it is actually a way to honor my mother in and of herself, because both my mother and father, my father is still with me, both of them had that rule for us, especially after we had hit teenage years, because they got to a point where they were like, well, we can't stop you. We can tell you not to, but we can't stop you. But if you're going to do this, make sure you do it in a way that doesn't make you look like some sort of jerk to the world. So, I encourage everybody to not place curses upon other people. Because if God does not think that person deserves a curse, and that's going to be who the judge is, it's going to come right back on you, and you're going to get that thing. The Old Testament has got a lot of stories of that, and so if you have any doubts there, go ahead and go take a look. I encourage you to read the Old Testament. I don't know that I'll make videos of the Old Testament. I might, but there is a lot more in there that is got a lot more hot button topics in it. And this is sort of enough of a hot button topic for me at the moment. I will go back to the beginning of the New Testament at some point, though, and record all the beginning part of that. Probably starting in the beginning of next year. So, I encourage all of you to be good to each other. Don't curse one another. Remember that just because something doesn't look like the context of what is in your cultural background and what is in your everyday life by how you define words, doesn't mean it doesn't exist in other cultures and other places, and they just have it look a little different. If you're going to insist, and you're going to insist it only can look like what your culture says it must look like, then you have to ask yourself if you're in the love vibration. Because if you have to force, like this is like the equivalent of, any one person going, well, if you just listen to me, you would have this thing that everybody from your culture previously to you in your demographic has ever wanted. And it doesn't really matter if you don't want it, you should want it, so you have to want it. And I'm going to tell you, you have to. And if you wouldn't like that to be done to you, then do unto others as you would have done unto you. Because it's the golden rule for a reason, people. You can only define you. So please, go about the world today not defining anybody but you.